How do you become the you dream of being?
Awesome, Deb. So we are live now. I'm gonna make you host, and then you'll have to make me co-host again.
All set.
Awesome.
Hi, Gail. Welcome. How are you today? Can you hear me? There you are. Hi, Gail. I can't hear you.
Gail, though you're unmuted, we're still not able to hear you. I guess there's some problem with your microphone. Try having a different earpiece.
Try doing what did you say, Michael? Could you put that in the chat maybe?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, great. Oh, here comes Grisha. I hope we'll be able to hear you. Yeah, if you're not muted, so that's not the problem. If you go into your settings, do you have a place to select a microphone? Hi, Peachy. Okay. Okay, Gail, I understand. You can use the chat box though, and Michael is going to monitor the chat and make sure I don't miss anything there. So use that in lieu of a microphone today.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, Garnetta. Hey, welcome back.
Thank you. Did you have a good Mother's Day?
It was very nice. I cooked for someone and she really enjoyed it. So that was nice. Yeah. How about you?
Oh, it was quiet. It was quiet.
Yeah. Yes, I think mine was very quiet after my dinner guest was done. I think I napped most of the afternoon.
Yeah, relaxing.
Mhm. Hi, Peachy. Hi, Ellen.
Hi, Deb.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. It looks like several of you are here now, so we'll try to get started on time. Welcome to Heart Healthy Cooking. And it seems to me there might be a person or two Peachy, have you taken a session with me before?
No, I have not. No,
Okay, I kind of thought I didn't recognize your name, so welcome. I'm really happy to have you here today. Thanks for joining.
thank you.
Have you taken some other Get Set Up classes?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Okay, so you're very familiar. And Ellen, how about you? Have you taken some of my classes before? I know I've had Ellens in class, but I suppose there's more than one. Okay. Well, Peachy, since you're new with me, my name's Deb Livingston. I'm happy to meet you, and I'll be your guide today. I live in York, Pennsylvania, and my background's in business. So in my career, I've done a lot of training and development and coaching, that sort of thing. And now I have channeled my teaching and training into teaching at Get Set Up, where it's really fun to talk about food and cooking. So it's enjoyable to have people coming to class who actually want to be here. And Gail, I don't know that you and I have met before. Have you been to any of my classes? Okay. All right. Okay. Good. I'm glad you're back. And hi, Leona. So that's who I
It's not a big deal for me. I just have to obviously create for the kitchen. You don't think they're going to ask me for a bigger?
And there we go. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes we like to have conversation in these classes, and sometimes when we're going off mute, there's background noise. So I really encourage you to talk and take yourself off mute to talk, and then just put yourself back on so we can avoid the background noise. We do learn best from each other, and that happens when I think especially when we're on camera together and when we can have conversation to make this as real as it possibly can be, as though we're in a room together like that. So we are recording this session, and you can receive the recording by contacting help@getsetup.io. And we are live streaming this class. So I just want to say hello to anybody who may be joining us by live stream. And of course, we like it when you join in a class like this, because we think it's a great opportunity for us to learn from each other. So invite you to register for a class and join these lovely people. Lastly, Get Set Up is not in any kind of financial relationship with any company that we represent products for, nor am I. So we just see things that we think you might like, and we share those along the way. Just want to give that little disclaimer. So I have these objectives for class today. I want to talk about food-related factors for heart disease. So I know that you know some of those. This is going to be some conversation. So I'll be asking you some questions. And then I'll share with you some tips for a heart-healthy diet and some power foods that if you incorporate those into your daily diet or your weekly diet, that you will go a long way to improving your heart health. And there's enough foods in there that if you work hard at getting them all in, you won't have time for all those. You won't have space for all those or appetite for all those other things. So that's what we'll talk about, and then discuss how to get some of those in through the meal and recipe ideas that I have. So I guess I'd like to ask you the question, what brought you today, and what would you like to leave this class with? So I'll just sit quietly and let you unmute yourself and let me know what you're into.
Well, I have just been diagnosed with coronary artery disease, and not that it was any surprise because my whole family has suffered and died from it. But I thought I was doing such a good job taking care of myself, but evidently you can only do so much yourself. So I'm kind of trying to switch over to more of a plant-based diet. I never do anything 100%, so I'm probably more like 80-20, because I still like what I like, but I'm looking for reinforcement and some ideas.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry about your diagnosis, but you do have a lot of control. So we'll share some ideas, and I wonder if there's anybody else here who's in Peachy's position, having been diagnosed with heart disease. Yeah. Gail, you want to talk about that a little bit? No? Okay. Oh, you can't. That's right. Your mom, her microphone is not working. Sorry about that. So you're not in this alone. There's many of us that have that issue. And anyone else care to share what brought you today? Okay. Well, as you were saying, Peachy, not everything is under your control. There are certainly genetic factors that lead to our getting clogged arteries and high cholesterol. I know my husband has pretty much genetically high cholesterol, and he's tried everything, and it's just very hard for him to get his cholesterol down with diet alone. So he's had to go to medication. But having said that, he had a heart attack when he was 44, and he's now 77, and he is doing well.
Good.
And so there's lots of things that one can do to keep good health, have good health. So food related factors though that lead to heart disease, what are they? What do you know?
Oh, well, as far as me, I've kind of cut out a lot of red meat. And I'm not a fried food eater anyway, never was into fried foods. Actually, I thought I was eating pretty well. And I know it's genetic, it's not all eating, but I do like, I see a lot of sweets up there. I do like my sweets. But I don't drink soda of any kind. I don't like any carbonated beverages. Red wine is my drink of choice. So and wine, water, coffee, and tea. Basically, that's how I go.
Okay, I can relate to that. Yeah. So when I look at the food related factors that can add up to heart disease, I have these things on the list. First of all, being overweight, of course, is part of the problem because it taxes our heart, right? And so when we have too many calories and we're overweight, then we have problems with our heart sometimes. And is anybody familiar with the term body mass index here? Do you know that term? Yeah. Do you know your BMI?
In fact, I was all under 25 until just recently. And I went for physical and it was a little over 25 and they had the word obese next to it. And I've never thought of myself as obese. I mean, I'm not skinny any longer, but I'm 5'7" and I weigh 160. But that kind of threw me for a loop when I realized that over that number, you're considered obese.
Wow, and I suppose that would, yes, I think that's, so I have a slightly different, and it just depends on the doctor's office. So mine is 25, up to 25 is normal, 25 to 30 is considered overweight, and over 30 is considered obese.
Oh, okay. I like yours better.
Yeah, so go with mine. That's what are labels anyway, but we need to get you back under 25, right? That would make you feel better probably.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's one issue. And I am going to send you an email at the end of this class that's going to have a long list of links that you can follow for the things that I am talking about today. And one of those things is the BMI, the body mass index. And, to calculate your own, you do pounds by inches squared or some mathematical thing that none of us really wants to do. But I'm sending you a little calculator that you can enter into it your weight and your height, and it will automatically calculate your BMI. So you can keep track of it for yourself. You don't have to wait until you go to the doctor's office to have that checked.
Great.
So the second thing that I think can lead to heart disease is having high blood pressure, of course. And that is an underlying issue for lots of disease. And so too much sodium in the diet is a problem and can lead to that high blood pressure. So if you have high blood pressure, or if you are looking for a way to moderate your or your sodium, you need to think about having less than 2,300 milligrams of sodium in your diet per day. So that's just a point we'll get into in a little more detail. So too much sodium in the diet can be a problem. And then diets high in sugar, believe it or not, can raise triglyceride levels, which in turn can raise cholesterol levels. So who knew? Years ago, when my husband, as I mentioned to you, had his heart attack, we were looking for all kinds of ways to improve his numbers, his cholesterol numbers. So we went on a no-fat or very low-fat Dean Ornish diet. You may remember him talking about reversing heart disease. And perhaps that worked, but he had a very, very strict way of doing it that would have needed probably better monitoring. But instead, what we did was eliminated fats from our diet. And what did we do when we needed to eliminate fats? We needed to find other things to fill us up. You can't just eat spinach or lettuce. You need something to feel full. So what did we add that was bulk to our diet when we couldn't eat meat that had saturated fat and so on? Well, we added a lot of carbohydrates. So we ate bread and we ate rice and we ate things we shouldn't have eaten, but we didn't know. This was many, many years ago. And in fact, his triglyceride numbers went way out of whack. And so did his cholesterol. It just stayed as high as it was. But in general, his numbers got worse, not better. So we rapidly came to know that reducing the amount of simple carbohydrates in our diet was an important factor in keeping cholesterol in check too, by keeping triglycerides in check. So that's another factor. And then, of course, diets high in saturated fat can be a problem, but not quite the problem that we might have originally felt some years ago. There is some moderating with saturated fat. And if we stay below 23 grams of saturated fat per day, in general, for a healthy person, we're okay. So you have to kind of watch what it does to your cholesterol, but a little saturated fat doesn't necessarily translate into having higher cholesterol. So, how many grams of sugar do you think, speaking of this sugar point, how many grams or teaspoons of sugar do you think are in a 20-ounce bottle of Coca-Cola?
I don't know. A lot.
Yeah. So before I tell you the answer, let me just give you this little tidbit. We should be considering as women getting less than 6 teaspoons of added sugar per day in our diet, less than 6 teaspoons. Now, added sugar is sugar that doesn't come inherent in the food that we eat. So it's not the sugar in an apple. It's not the sugar in a pear. It's the sugar that we put into our cup of coffee or that we have in our soda, less than 6 teaspoons. A 20-ounce bottle of Coke has 16. So that gives you a little sense of what can happen, if we drink soda without thinking about it, like I know I did when I was much younger. Other things like fruit juices are not as bad, but similarly, they will rapidly take you past your added sugar limit. Even though that's really not an added sugar, there is sugar in an orange, but you would have to eat an awful lot of oranges to get the amount of juice in an 8-ounce glass of orange juice, or even a 4-ounce glass of orange juice. So better to eat the whole fruit there. So some tips to get you there. One is to really be aware of portion sizes and knowing what they look like, I think. Either have a good visual for that or have a scale and start to measure out the things that you are eating just until you get that visual in mind. So a good thing to do online is go into Google. You can get many things that look like this. You can type in serving size image, and it comes up with lots of these to show you what a serving size might be in something that you can relate to. So a serving size for a cheese is 1.5 ounces, and it looks like 2 dominoes together.
Uh-oh.
Yes, I know. How about it? And then peanut butter, 1 serving size is 2 tablespoons, more than what I would think it might be, but that's about the size of a golf ball. And a serving of nuts is about the size of an egg. So I don't know about you, and I've cut way back on nuts because they don't sit well with me in other ways, but when I get started on mixed nuts, I can eat way more than a 1/4 cup. And they have healthy fats in them, omega-3 fatty acids, which is awesome, and we need to have those, but they are also highly caloric. In a 1/4 cup of nuts, you're getting 200 calories. So that's something for us to be aware of, getting a visual for what serving sizes are. On the other hand, there's a baseball size is your serving of Brussels sprouts or vegetables. Well, have as many as you want. That'd be great. Have all the baseballs you want. Anyway, I have found the scale, the kitchen scale, to be really very helpful. It was very inexpensive. It has a small footprint on my counter. I don't know how I lived without it. I use it all the time to measure things. And now I'm pretty good at knowing just by looking at something what the size is. So control that portion size. Eat more fruits and vegetables. So that plate needs to get reversed from what it was for many of us growing up. I know for me, it was a large piece of meat and a little pile of potatoes and a little pile of vegetables, and that was dinner. And now it needs to be a very large serving of vegetables, maybe a little bit of potatoes, and a small serving of meat as well. There's nothing really inherently wrong with meat. It's more along the quantities and the quality of the meat. I would advocate eating organic chicken and grass-fed beef if you can work that into your budget, because that's going to be a much healthier choice. Even from the standpoint of beef, there is a whole different makeup of the meat in grass-fed beef, because it is comprised much more so of omega-3 fatty acids than omega-6, and leaner as well. So there are a lot of benefits to that kind of beef if you're going to want to eat beef. And limiting the unhealthy fats, grass-fed beef helps to do that. So does eating lean meats like chicken and fish. And also eliminating trans fats. Do you know what trans fats are? Have you run across that term before? They're the manufactured fats that are in so many baked goods, especially inexpensive baked goods. Now, the FDA banned them, but they'll still show up every once in a while. So just be on the alert and make sure that when you read the labels of any packaged goods that you buy, that there's no trans fats in there. And that your saturated fats are limited to less than 23 grams per day. And that sodium is less than a teaspoon, and that would be less than 2,300 milligrams. So that helps to keep that blood pressure down. Not everybody is salt sensitive and has terrible issues with high blood pressure, but as we age, we tend to get higher and higher pressure. And so the sodium intake can help. We can help by reducing that sodium intake a little bit. Thoughts or questions or comments about anything that I have said here so far? This all things you know already?
Not really, but most of them, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. I did miss selecting whole grains, and I do want to say a word about that, because we tend to eat a lot of bread that is white bread, French bread, Italian bread, baguettes, sandwich bread, all made with refined flour. We bake cakes with refined flour. We bake all-purpose flour, otherwise known as. We bake cookies with those. And the all-purpose flour is made from a part of the grain that's called the ectosperm. And it is of no nutritional value, because the nutritional pieces of the grain are in the bran and the germ. And that's what you get when you buy whole grain bread or whole grain flour. So not only do you get better nutrition, but you get more fiber through that inclusion of whole grains in your diet. So, and you eliminate the empty calories that are in the all-purpose flour. And we talk about that a little in my healthy desserts class too. We talk about strategies for making desserts actually better for you. So something to think about there. You should be looking for bread that says as the number one ingredient, whole grain flour, because there are a lot of whole grain breads out there that are labeled as such, but aren't really. They might be the second or third or fourth ingredient listed on the bag, but all-purpose flour is the first, or refined white flour is the first one. So just know that that labeling can vary, and that brown bread doesn't necessarily mean healthy bread. I did some consulting work for a bakery who and they all do this. They use things like molasses in their whole grain breads to make them look like whole grain, make them brown. So you can check that label as well, because you're getting unwanted sugars, not only in the form of the flour that breaks easily down into sugar, but also in the form of molasses. But good news, there are so many good foods to eat to make ourselves heart healthy. And I realized that it becomes a food lifestyle over time. You work a little of these in at a time and gradually develop a taste for that. The good news is that our taste buds get acclimated and we really can change. It doesn't mean that we can't have what we like. We can have that, we can moderate that, and we can include these other things in and begin to enjoy them as well. Whoops. Well, that wasn't what I wanted to do. Let's try that again. So plan meals to include fatty fish. So how many of you have heard that before? Eat the fatty fish. Yeah. So what are fatty fish? Well, salmon, tuna, trout, mackerel, herring, sardines, and anchovies. And the qualifiers I would say here are that when you eat salmon, if you can, it's best to eat the wild caught salmon that you can get from Alaska. When you eat tuna, it's wise if you limit that to 1 or 2 times per month. Now, why is that? It's so full of good omega-3 fatty acids. That's true, but it's also full of, well, it has more toxins and heavy metals like mercury in it because a tuna tends to live for a while. And so it's living in this ocean where these heavy metals are, and it just absorbs this into its flesh. And we in turn absorb it into ours. We don't get rid of it. We continue to build mercury in our bodies and some of those other heavy metals. But some of these littler fish are really the best. And I can attest to the fact that I am developing a cultivated taste for sardines. So how many of you like sardines? How many of you eat sardines?
No,
Nope, it just sounds like a real turnoff, right? So you might see if there are some ways that you can work sardines in, because they are very high in vitamin D, and we need that. Vitamin D did you know that by now, probably a lot of people know that when we have low vitamin D levels, we're more susceptible to COVID. So a lot of people who had COVID were found to have low vitamin D levels. So get your vitamin D in. And so I will have some more suggestions for that. But these fish are important sources. Oh, depends on where I click in that slide, what shows up. So let me try up here at the top. So the other thing is to include lots of these berries into your diet. Are you a berry fan? Who's a berry fan? Yeah, yeah. Strawberries, blackberries, blueberries. Look at the beautiful colors. They reflect the important nutrients and phytonutrients, vitamins, antioxidants that are in these berries. So that's why we are told to eat lots of colorful things, because the phytonutrients come out in color. That's how we know they're there. And they are full of fiber. These little guys are very low in sugar, so it's a good expenditure of sugar calories. And they are very high in fiber, which is not always easy to get. So let me tell you a little bit about fiber. in our bodies, at the root of a lot of systemic diseases like diabetes and heart disease, there is inflammation. Have you heard of that being a source of a lot of problems? Chronic inflammation. So one of the ways that we start to reduce inflammation is to incorporate all of these foods, and for a lot of reasons, but one of the very important reasons is the high level of fiber. Fiber can help us keep things moving, keep inflammation down. And it's really inflammation in our vessels that causes heart problems, causes the cholesterol to line up in our blood vessels, because it's really just, cholesterol is just doing its job. Cholesterol is going up there to patch those vessels because they're inflamed. But the problem is that narrows them, and then we have a problem. So really dealing with the root cause of inflammation is what's going to be, I believe, one of your best strategies. So learn, Peachy, I'm speaking, I guess, primarily to you right now because of our conversation here in the beginning. Read more about inflammation and anti-inflammatory diets. Has that been something that you've learned about or talked about?
Actually, I have been looking into a little bit of that because I realize that's important.
Okay, that's great. That's very important. And there are functional medical doctors out there that might also be able to help you with that. Functional medical doctors. So just as a relative number here, grams of fiber per day, we should be getting 25. Now, it's not always easy to do that if we're not eating whole grain bread, or we're not eating beans, or we're not eating fruits and vegetables that are loaded. Normal vegetables, asparagus, that sort of thing, doesn't, the typical vegetables we eat aren't super high in fiber, but these berries are. So a cup of blackberries has 8 grams of fiber in it. When you look at your whole grain bread, you should be looking at least 3, preferably 5 grams of fiber in a slice of your whole grain bread. So look for fiber, 25 grams, and this is a good way to get your fiber fill. And I'll send you some information on berries. More power foods. How many of you are eating flax seeds or chia seeds, including any of those in your diet in any way? Anybody doing that? So Joe, can you say how you're doing that? What are you eating, and how do you eat them?
I have the flax seeds and the chia seeds in jars, and I sprinkle them on things.
Beautiful. Great. So 1 to 2 tablespoons of flaxseed is good. I particularly like it when I grind it in my coffee grinder because it makes it really fine, and it makes it really blendable into lots of different things, including your own baked goods. Or as you say, you put it on things like maybe yogurt or oatmeal. You can put that on your breakfast in the morning. Also very high in fiber, so an excellent source. You can take chia seeds in. Now I like to hydrate chia seeds because they're little hard black things. And I get a little sensitive in my gastrointestinal tract, and I don't want anything sticking. So by hydrating these, by putting them in something with liquid, they get like tapioca, if you know what I mean. And so you can make wonderful puddings out of them. I put them in a glass of water and enjoy them that way. So squeeze a little lemon juice in my water, put some chia seeds in there, and let them swell up. And they're kind of funny. And you don't want to go outside without checking or go visit anybody without checking your teeth first, because they will stick in your teeth and you'll need to floss, which isn't a bad thing because flossing also is a way to reduce inflammation. So the chia seeds are quite nice that way.
I make a pudding from chia seed. I mix it with almond milk and a little bit of vanilla, and kind of blend it in my Nutri blender and let it refrigerate overnight, and it's really good.
Delicious, yes. And what do you use for a sweetener then, Leona?
I use stevia.
Okay, zero sweet calories with stevia, zero effect on blood sugar. That's great. And as a matter of fact, in my healthy meals on a budget class, at the end of that class, we talk exactly about that. And I provided a link. I provide a link to 32 recipes for 32 different chia pudding.
Oh my, I'm gonna have to look at that.
Yours sounds really good, and I think that's a great snack and a great healthy dessert, actually. Garnetta, you were going to say something about using chia and
I gotta plug it in.
Yeah, I use the chia and the flax in my smoothies.
yeah, in smoothies. Yeah, smoothies are such a great way to get your fiber and so much of your nutrients for the day, your nutrition, your fiber, your omegas, and a lot of your antioxidants all in one meal, first thing in the morning, and then you kind of have it out of the way and everything else becomes a bonus or add-on. So smoothies are a good meal. And here's those nuts we were talking about before. They're still a really good source of omega-3 and lots of good vitamins and minerals, including selenium. Just be aware of the calories. So if you're not including beans in your diet to the tune of about 1.5 to 2 cups, probably about 2 cups a week, cooked beans now, then that's an area that you might want to strive to up a little bit. So 2 cups of beans a week. I know that sometimes they carry with them that concern about the impact that we have on our gastro system. They do cause gas, but if you're soaking them, if you're using dry beans and you're soaking them ahead of time, and if you're eating them regularly, you will find that reaction starts to diminish as your body gets acclimated to eating all of that fiber. A lot of that has to do with the fiber. A lot of it has to do with a particular ingredient in the beans, but your body will acclimate. And does anyone eat oatmeal for breakfast? Yeah. So do you like, you can't answer me. And Ray, Peachy, you eat oatmeal?
Yeah.
So there are several different varieties. And I went looking just to see if there was anything nutritionally that was better than in one than another. And I found that regardless of which one you selected, steel cut or rolled or quick, you would still get the same nutritional value. The primary difference is that there is slightly higher fiber in the steel cut oats. And of course, they just all taste, or their texture is a little bit different.
Yeah,
So it depends on the texture you like.
I like the texture of the steel cut.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. It's nice to have some of both around, and then you might use them for baking. The steel cut oats aren't as friendly for that.
Right.
And then we have this last area of inclusion of the reds and the oranges and the yellows in the way of fruits and vegetables, especially. And of course, all the deep greens, the color again. These are reflecting beta carotene, which is an important antioxidant, and several other, I can't even remember all the names of them, but the phytonutrients really are reflected in the color of these. So as many different colors as you can. So just, if you're in the habit of eating green peppers and you like them on a salad, start mixing it up with the red and the orange peppers a little bit. Just include different colors, and you'll be getting different phytonutrients. So I want to talk about what you eat for breakfast and how we can build a really powerful breakfast. I bet some of you are already doing that. So let's hear what you eat for breakfast.
I alternate because I get bored very easily. So this week I have a baked oatmeal that I just cut into squares. So each morning I just take one and I zap it in the microwave, and it has fruits and nuts in it.
Mm.
And then I'm looking for next week to actually do a frittata and do the same thing, and just eat a piece of it each day. So I'm lazy. I'm a lazy cook.
That's a perfectly great way to do it, I think. Are you cooking for one, Peachy?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I think that's a great idea. And when you make your oatmeal, are you using a fresh fruit or are you using a dried fruit?
Dried fruit, dried apricots, and dried cherries and nuts. Yeah.
Okay. So one thing you can consider with that, just if you're looking at overall sugars, is that dried fruits have a high level of sugar. And so you might think about at least alternating and sometimes using some of those fresh berries that we talked about. And then you might, if you need more sweet, you might use something like Leona was talking about with stevia, or a stevia blend like Better Than Sugar, or there are a number of them out there that taste very much like sugar.
Yes, I
You can
have to
include
do
them in.
a little bit of maple syrup in it when I mix it up, and that I don't like anything too sweet, and the fruit seems to sweeten it up also.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so who else has a really healthy breakfast they'd like to share? You're looking for a healthy breakfast, is that it? Okay. So what I would say as suggestions are these frittatas like Peachy's talking about, or some kind of a baked omelet. I have a recipe that I'm sending for baked omelet muffins. So you can make your omelet for 6 or 8 days. You can wrap these up, you can put them in the freezer. They warm up beautifully. They're a single serving and you make them all at one time. And of course you have one for that day. And load them up with lots of vegetables. So that's probably been the lifestyle change that over time I made with my egg breakfasts, going away from having, 2 scrambled eggs and a couple pieces of bacon and toast to using even fewer eggs and more vegetables, whether I'm mixing them in with my scrambled eggs or whether I'm making them into a frittata and putting them in the oven. Just as many vegetables as I can fit in, make them very vegetable heavy. Not a sprinkling, but maybe at least half of what I'm eating here is vegetables. So great way to get your vegetables in. And here's those sardines. Now, when I first read about this, I thought, I'm not sure if I can do this, but I'm going to do it for my heart healthy cooking class. I'm going to try this. I used sprouted grain bread, which is even better than whole grain bread. Sprouted grain bread, lots of fiber, with an avocado smashed with a little bit of lime juice. By the way, a half of an avocado has 5 grams of fiber and lots of omega-3 fatty acids. So it's an excellent, like, superfood. And then I put these sardines on top. And mine come in oil. So I just strained the oil off of them. Didn't rinse them or anything. I left the oil because it's olive oil. And then sprinkled a little bit of red pepper on there and little salt if I wanted it. And that's what I ate. And I loved it. And now it's become a favorite. I sometimes eat it for breakfast. Sometimes I eat it for lunch or just as a snack. And what I've included here is a recipe for a little bit of a let's look at it real quickly. It's kind of a marinade in case you want your sardine to taste a little less fishy. This is courtesy of Alton Brown. And what he does is takes those sardines, drains them, and then whisks together some parsley, vinegar, lemon zest, black pepper, and marinades the sardines in it for a while. And then broils them for, no, we're not broiling the sardines. I'm sorry, we're broiling the toast. And then just marinating the fish and placing that on top of the avocado toast. And then just putting some more of that dressing on top. So I would just say they are so good for us that it's worth finding a recipe that you might be able to eat here, that you would enjoy these sardines. So give it a try, see what happens. I have had some people come back to this class who said, well, I tried the sardines and I liked them. So we'll see. So as far as oatmeal is concerned, I like to soak my oatmeal the night before. Doesn't always happen, but when it does, here's what it's good for. When you soak, say, first of all, if you soak steel cut oats, they get ready faster because we all know that they cook a little more slowly than a quick oats or even a rolled oats. So soaking steel cut oats the night before, but any oats the night before in a combination of water with a little bit of something fermented or acid like lemon juice, or I like to use maybe a spoonful of yogurt, breaks down some substance that's on the outside of a lot of grains and nuts called phytate. And phytate is an anti-nutrient because what it actually does is blocks absorption of the really good things that are in those grains and in those nuts. So I apply this method to my oats and I apply it to all of my nuts too. I soak my nuts overnight in salt water, actually. That breaks them down. And then I dry them in the oven for a good 12 to 18 hours so that those phytates are gone from them as well. And they're much more digestible. The oats are more digestible and more nutritious. So you can read all about soaking your oats when I send you the email. And these are some of the things that I put in my oatmeal. I put flaxseed meal, and these are blueberries, but whatever berries I might have. I might use a milk substitute like an oat milk. It just depends on what I have. We kind of rotate that around. And there's maple syrup. I don't use that very often because that is a sugar. A sugar is a sugar is a sugar. So even though it has a little bit of nutritional value, it still is something that our body breaks down quickly and can tend to spike our blood sugar. And then I will instead use either a packet of stevia, or I found this that I really like. It's called keto collagen. And, you know, collagen is all the rage right now. We want to have the collagen so our face doesn't fall and our skin doesn't get flabby and our joints don't get tired. So I bought this and it comes in flavors and it is sweetened with stevia. It's delicious. I get the chocolate flavor and I make hot chocolate out of it, either with a type of milk or even just with water. And then this is cinnamon toast flavor, and I use just a sprinkling of it on my oatmeal, and I don't need any sugar. It's sweet enough and it's very flavorful as well. So those are some additions that can be had for oatmeal that makes it even more power packed, similar to some of the things you were describing. So before I move on, thoughts or questions about anything on the breakfasts or any of the ingredients that I mentioned to you?
I'm going to try the sardines.
Okay. Well, look at that recipe. Maybe that'll help out a little bit. And maybe you don't want to eat them for breakfast. I know some people, I don't have that kind of a problem. Like, it doesn't turn me off to eat certain foods at breakfast, but some people really can't stomach that kind of thing. So eat it when it feels best.
Good.
All right. So here are some lunchtime boosts that you can try. And these are just, I don't know what to tell you, except they're all power packed. And this kale salad, this is not me, this is another Deb, but I even have my husband enjoying kale salad. He who says I don't like kale salad. So this is wonderful. How many of you have made kale salad before? Anybody make a kale salad? And do you like it, or is it?
I mix it with romaine, and I don't make it strictly kale. I kind of mix it with other lettuce.
You mix it in. Yeah. And one of the objections that lots of people have about kale is that it's kind of tough. And so it's chewy and it's not all that flavorful. And so it just gets left out. And even in smoothies, it doesn't really grind up very well. So we have a love-hate thing with kale. But this is what good kale salad should look like. Really nice and deep green like this. And the way that we get it that way is by massaging it.
Right.
So we take that kale and we clean it. Do you massage your kale, Peachy?
Yes, I've just done that recently. It
Yeah.
feels a little weird, but it does make a difference.
Yeah, and just when you think you have it enough, when you think your hands are tired, do it a little bit more. So you could start with a whole bowl of kale and have it down to about half a bowl of kale by the time you're really massaging it and making it soft and chewable. But it really is, as you said, it really does make a difference, and it can be so delicious then. And this is a very easy recipe. It calls for the kale and pecans. Toasted pecans is what I like here. A few radishes sliced into the salad, and then a half cup of dried cranberries or maybe dried cherries. I like the dried, well, they both bring nutritional qualities. And then a medium Granny Smith apple, organic if you can do it, because apples are one of the worst for pesticide, and 2 ounces of soft goat cheese that you're going to sprinkle around the top of this. So you're massaging that kale, and then you're adding all of those ingredients to the bowl with the kale, and then using this as a dressing. It's olive oil, apple cider vinegar, Dijon mustard, a little bit of honey or maple syrup, and salt and pepper. And that's not very much honey. That's a teaspoon and a half of honey or maple syrup across that whole salad, and it makes 4 servings. So I think that you would enjoy this salad. And they are toasted pecans.
Will that recipe be in your notes?
You bet.
Okay, great.
All the recipes will be in the notes. And this veggie and hummus sandwich, I'm just going to describe. You can read the recipe, but the sky's the limit on this. You can do whatever vegetables you like, whatever is in season. It's possible to not have the same sandwich twice. But if you go to the store and you buy some hummus, everybody know what hummus is, or are you unfamiliar? If you're unfamiliar, let me know. Raise your hand. It's a bean paste. It's made with tahini, which is sesame spread or sesame butter. And it is delicious. It comes in many flavors. And what we've done on this sandwich is spread one piece of bread with hummus. So you get all the fiber, all the nutrition of the beans, the chickpeas, and the other half with smashed avocado. And then in between all of these different vegetables, whether they're cucumbers or peppers, or lettuces of any sort, spinach, crunchy things are great in these sandwiches. Little salt and pepper. If you want a piece of cheese, a slice of really sharp, something really sharp that stands out would be very good here. So that's a very high fiber, high nutrition lunch right there. And you can pair it with a cup of this white bean, sage, and sausage soup, which is very nice. I'll give you that. I'm going to check my time. I'll give you that recipe. We're running a little short on time, so I won't go into the deep detail here, but this could be a meal in itself. And you can gauge with the sausage how much or little you want. I think it calls for 20 ounces if you don't want to use quite that much. I have found that it's become very easy to cut back on the meat in a recipe and still get the flavor. So that's a strategy that can be helpful. And you can have that as a full meal, or you can have a cup of this and a half a sandwich, or match any of those. And these are some dinner ideas for you that I have found to be really useful, of all those power ingredients that we talked about, and easy to make and very tasty. So this baked pesto chicken is one that you can imagine if you're at the store and you get a pack of chicken breasts on sale, 2 or 4 in a pack. Well, you can come home and you can make this dinner by pouring a can of tomatoes, chopped tomatoes, in the bottom of your casserole dish, then placing your chicken breast on top of that with a little salt and pepper, then spreading pesto over it, and then covering it with some mozzarella cheese and a little Parmesan cheese, and baking it at 350 until the chicken is done at about 165 degrees. And then with the other 2 or 3 chicken breasts, you can you can put them in a dish as well and make that all up ahead of time, however many you want, and put plastic wrap over the dish, put foil over that, and put those in the freezer for a very easy meal already prepared for next time. So that's a great freezer meal. And then we can look at this gorgonzola fettuccine. Anybody like gorgonzola cheese? I should ask that question. Do you like gorgonzola? Something a little sharp? When we're using cheese, I think it makes all kinds of sense if you like a very flavorful or sharp or pungent cheese to use that, because you don't need as much to get the flavor. And that's the principle that this recipe is built on. So we're using the 8 ounces of uncooked fettuccine. So that's how much pasta we start with. And we should be using whole grain pasta, right? From everything we talked about, using whole grain pasta, asparagus, 3 cups. Now, again, you can decrease this, good strategy. Don't always use what they call for. You can always freeze what you have remaining. Use less pasta, more asparagus. And then a couple of teaspoons of butter there. We're using garlic, fat-free milk. You can use a low-fat milk. I sometimes think that this is not a very good choice. I'd rather have a few grams of fat than go with this, which becomes not very nutritious at all. And then a 1/4 cup or just about 2 ounces of the Neuchâtel cheese, the lower fat cream cheese, not the no fat. There's all kinds of other things in no fat versions that make them less healthy. And then just 2 ounces of gorgonzola or blue cheese, and a couple of tablespoons of chopped walnuts. So let me just take a glance up here to see, this is yielding four servings. So think about how you might reduce this if you were just making for one, or making it and freezing it over time. So you're cooking the pasta, and then while that's cooking, you melt the butter in the pan, add a little garlic, and then add the flour, so you have a little bit of a roux going on there, and then stir in the milk, whatever milk you're using, until you get it starts to thicken up, and then stir in that cream cheese as well. That helps to thicken it, and cook it until it is completely thick. Drain the pasta and the asparagus and put that all in a large bowl and toss it with that sauce, and then serve it with gorgonzola and walnuts over top. So you're not enfolding a whole lot of gorgonzola into the whole recipe. You're just sprinkling it. Now, I would say don't go without it, because that cream cheese sauce, that cream cheese base, is low calorie, but it's not really too super flavorful. It's the gorgonzola that gives it the intensity. So make sure that you like gorgonzola or some kind of sharp cheese on there, along with those walnuts. And I think I did forget to mention that one of the things you want to do is cook that asparagus. So you can cook that right in your pasta water just before you're ready to take the pasta off, just for about 2 minutes. And then this last recipe is salmon foil packets with vegetables, and this couldn't be simpler. So take a nice piece of fatty fish. In this case, we're going to take the salmon. You can even put a little butter on it. This is a good use for butter. And let's remember this too. Butter, lots of vitamins in vegetables are fat soluble. That means they dissolve in fat. And so there was wisdom to eating butter on your cooked vegetables, which was something we did, well, the whole time I was growing up. It was always butter your vegetables. So a little bit of butter is fine, and you can put whatever vegetables you like in that foil packet and seal that packet up completely and put it in the oven for about, depends on the thickness of your fish, but 15 minutes, maybe 20, but I would get it out and check it to make sure it's at your level of doneness. I, for one, don't like overcooked salmon, so I'd be checking it pretty frequently. You can also do those on the grill as well. So those can be simply made with a serving for one. And that brings us to the conclusion of our session today. We covered quite a bit, and I hope that this was of value to you and that it made you feel good that there are lots of things that you can do, lots of tasty things you can do to make your diet a little more heart healthy. And I would love to take any questions that you have.
I don't have a question, but I'm just looking forward to your email with all those recipes in it.
I will be sending that, and let me go through that now, as a matter of fact. First of all, I have an email address, debtheguide@getsetup.io. Would love to hear from you. I'm happy to take any recipes that you might have, recipes your mom used to make, recipes you really like, pictures of things that you've done, or topics that you would like to see included in future classes. That would be really helpful to me and helps Get Set Up gear classes to what you're looking for. I have some classes coming up tomorrow, Spotlight, that focuses on specific ingredients, like tomorrow will be quinoa and asparagus. Thursdays, I have a Let's Talk Cooking, where we just get together and have free-form conversations about food-related topics. And I have a friend of mine who is a chef, a personal chef, who's coming in to talk about creating an easy but elegant cheese board. So I hope you'll join me for some of those. I will send you that email after the class. And if you don't get it, look in your spam. If you still don't get it, then check with help@getsetup.io for that. You will get the notes, which will include all of those links, and there is a considerable number of them. And you will also get an opportunity to give feedback, which is super important to us and to me. And you can rate both the session and me, and add any comments about either of those, as well as just any general comments about how Get Set Up might improve. And you can view our schedule from here and book your next class right from that email, as well as send this class to a friend if you think they would benefit from it. And you can always invite a friend, no matter where you are in the process. If you're on the website, you can book and invite a friend, or if you're on your phone, you can do that as well. And as always, we are interested in having any of you join and be part of or host an interest group. If there's an area that you'd really like to delve into and you just want to chat with other community members, see us about hosting an interest group, or suggest a new class, or share your organization with Get Set Up so that we can grow this community. And you can also request the recording, as I mentioned in the beginning, all at help@getsetup.io. So I look forward to having you in more classes, and I'm going to stop my share now and also answer any further questions or help you if you'd like to get set up in another class. By the way, you can always go on the website. You can type in my name and see the other classes that I teach as well. So if I can help you with that. Pardon me?
When you were talking about the tuna, are you talking about the albacore tuna or just all tuna in general, or what about the mercury?
Yeah, it's pretty much all tuna.
Okay. Okay.
It's a condition of our oceans.
Okay. Just wanted to verify that. Thank you. See you next time.
All right. Take care. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Gail. I hope the next time that you join that your microphone will be working so we can chat. And Peachy, thank you very much for sharing everything about what's happening with you. And I hope that you got some things that will be useful to you. And I wish you a lot of luck in pursuing some changes.
Deb, I had a question about the kale. Massaging the kale? Do you use oil to soften it? How do you do
goodness, Fiona, I'm so glad you asked that question. Yes, what you'll use is just a little bit of salt.
Salt, okay.
And salt brings the moisture out in any vegetable. You probably do that with other things. So just sprinkle a little salt and get in there with your hands and really just keep going. I see that Joe's doing it. Joe's up there doing that massaging. Yeah, it's that kind of thing that really breaks down. Thanks for asking.
Okay, thank you. I've never done that.
Sure. And kale salad would be very good now that I think about it, with mandarin oranges too. That would be a delicious addition. Yeah.
Okay, thank you again.
You're welcome, and we'll see you next time.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.